Well, I'd like to share with you how the Eucharist drew me to the Catholic Church. For 17 years, I walked very closely with Jesus as a Protestant. Then out of nowhere, I began experiencing a deep restlessness in my faith. And by the grace of God, I knew that He was prompting me to this restlessness. And although this restlessness, my own sort of dark night of the soul, was challenging, that it was going to be for my good. And I was trusting Him that He was using this to lead me into deeper relationship with Him. And this was my greatest desire. While I felt that I had an abundance of head knowledge of Jesus, I sensed that there was still this sort of wall between us, and that something was missing, and this was breaking my heart. My continual prayer during this time was that I would not let this barrenness discourage me, but that I would persevere in seeking Him. I was hanging on to verses like Jeremiah 29:13, which says, "You will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart." During this time, highly unusual for me, I experienced a very restless night of sleep. And in my dream, I was pleading with God, "I love you, Jesus. I know you know this. I'm desperate to know you better, Lord. Why do I not feel close to you? What do I need to do?" And I awoke in the early hours, just as the light was beginning to peek through my windows, and I will never forget this, but I felt as though I saw Jesus standing next to my bed, looking down at me, just for a brief moment. And I sensed Him saying to me, "Stop. Stop all the Bible studies, all the books you keep reading, all these things you keep doing, and I want you to read the book of John. Read it over and over and over. Just keep reading." So I lay in my bed for quite a long time after this, trying to sear into my brain what I thought had just happened and praying that it was real. I immediately grabbed my Bible and began reading the book of John. The book of John has always been my favorite book of the Bible, and I had studied it many times. But as I simply read the book over and over again over the next few days, I kept becoming uncomfortable as I read John 6. These are Jesus' words on the bread of life. How had I read this so many times over the years, yet it never ever occurred to me to take it literally? How had I for years carried out a strict, literal reading of the Bible, but somehow took these words, only these words, as mere metaphor? So over the next few months, through many different avenues, Jesus gently opened my eyes to His truth, and my life was radically changed for the good. A few months later, I find myself here at RCIA, and I came into full communion with the Catholic Church at the Easter Vigil in 2017. As I received the body and the precious blood of Jesus for the first time and returned to my seat, I thanked God, and I prayed that I would never, ever forget that moment, and that I would never take Him for granted, that I would always recognize the daily invitation Jesus extends to me to meet Him in the Eucharist and the Blessed Sacrament. So still nearly after 5 years, when I come to Mass and I get out of my car, I feel God beckoning me into the church, drawing me to Himself to feed my hungry soul. I enter with anticipation and with excitement because I am approaching to meet with Jesus for real union with Him and to worship Him. Mere words cannot do justice to how the Mass, the Eucharist, and adoration have changed me. The closeness I was longing for, I have found abundantly in the Mass, and in particular, the Eucharist and adoration. I love the quiet and the reverence and the beauty and the majesty. But above all, I cherish knowing that Jesus is truly present under the appearance of bread and wine. The Eucharist strengthens me. It is a spiritual and a physical craving that only He can satisfy. And to be completely honest, sometimes after receiving the Eucharist and I return to my seat, I find myself asking God to help me grasp all of this. I am astounded by the real presence and the giving of Himself for us. Often, I am overwhelmed by the fact that it's not for me to grasp. It is a mystery, a gift Jesus gives by offering Himself so completely. I'm not to intellectualize the gift, but to allow it to feed me and to accept it humbly and reverently and to try to be as worthy of it as I humanly can. For as long as I can recall, one of my favorite verses in the Bible and what has become my prayer comes from Psalm 27. "One thing I ask of you, Lord, and this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord forever, and to gaze upon the beauty of your face, and to seek you in the temple. And in the Mass and in the Eucharist, I am allowed a glimpse of my heart's desire. Thank you.